Hello and welcome to our show, Health and Wellness, Myths and Facts. Recent technological advancements have vastly improved the metabolic disorders treatment experience. Medical professionals are discovering revolutionizing treatments, enhancing medication safety and streamlining procedures. Now, all through these many years of diabetes and heart care, there's been a trend to advance care tools, approaches and measures to help people who have these long-term metabolic disorders. The diagnosis and prompt treatment of diseases can also radically improve alternatives for treatment of patients. Regular monitoring of blood glucose levels and blood pressure can also save patients from long-term complications. COVID-19 has changed pretty much everything about healthcare delivery in the last 2 years. As we are on the brink of a third wave here in India, innovative care solutions are probably more important than ever before. Solutions that will allow patients not to have to go into crowded areas for medical treatment. As always, we're joined by experts to talk us through some of these. Today, we're joined by Dr. Rajshekhar N, MD, MRCP UK, DRNB Cardiology, Consultant Diabetologist and Interventional Cardiologist with the Sudha Hospitals in Erode. We're also being joined by Dr. B. Karthik, MBBS, MD, DM, Endocrinology, Consultant Endocrinologist with the Sri Ramchandra Medical Center in Chennai. Dr. Karthik, let me begin with you. Obviously, we're at the brink of what could be another very massive COVID wave. The Omicron variant of the coronavirus is spreading rapidly. In fact, we even heard a warning from the World Health Organization yesterday saying that Omicron and Delta together could actually give rise to a tsunami of cases that could stretch health systems to the brink of collapse. Where does that leave us right now, Dr. Karthik? What sort of precautions do we need to take? And could Omicron and Delta unite to create an even worse variant, as some people are suggesting?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. Omicron and Delta are two variants of the coronavirus. Both have different strengths and weaknesses. Omicron is very infectious but not very virulent. Delta is very virulent but not as infectious as Omicron. The combination of these two does not mean that they swap genes and form a different variant, but what we mean is that the pandemic is driven by two different kinds of coronavirus or two different variants of coronavirus. But at this point, we must realize that whatever be the variant of coronavirus, they all enter through the common portals of nose, mouth, and also our eyes. And if we can protect these portals and avoid indoor overcrowding and practice masking, social distancing, and keep ourselves vaccinated, we should be able to stay safe in this pandemic.
And if I can ask Dr. Rajshekhar that same question?
So although Omicron is a milder virus, it could still put pressure on hospitals because it spreads so fast. Although the combination we won't get, although there is so much panic, we must understand how Omicron infects our bodies. So it is better at infecting our airways rather than the deeper tissues of the lungs. So this could make the spread of the Omicron variant easier out rather than causing deeper infection into the lungs. So the spread to deeper tissues like lungs and heart are little rare in Omicron cases.
Right. Dr. Rajshekhar, very little is known at this point about the Omicron variant of the coronavirus, but how is the new variant likely to affect patients with cardiac ailments? Could it actually worsen their situation? What do cardiac patients specifically need to look out for?
So as I said before, the impact of Omicron on deeper tissues like lungs and heart will be like minimal. But still, when compared to Delta variant, the impact will be minimal. But however, we don't know the long-term impact of the affected patients. So when we go through the last 1 year data of COVID patients of the previous variants, we have seen there is a significant impact of significant increase in incidence of heart diseases, even in patients who have not been hospitalized. Like there is a twofold increases of heart failure and clots in the next 1 year. For the patients who have been hospitalized for COVID, they have 5-fold increased risk of heart failure and clots. There are multiple reasons. The reason for heart disease is not just because of the virus per se, but because of various other factors that can happen during pandemic, like psychological stress, social isolation, financial distress, dietary changes, and physical inactivity. So all these can influence cardiovascular diseases. So Omicron per se may not cause significant impact on heart diseases. So that is a good news. But the pandemic of Omicron will definitely increase the chance of getting one.
Right. Dr. Rajshekar, a quick follow-up then. For the majority of cardiac problems, surgical intervention is usually needed. Are there any medications that could postpone the need for surgical procedures at a time when not a lot of people will be wanting to go into hospitals for a length of time, for any extended duration of time?
Yeah, you are right. So many heart patients actually require some form of surgery or angioplasty like stenting. But the 2021 was one of the most amazing year for heart patients, since a lot of new drugs have been added to the clinical practice. So there are millions of heart patients who have diseases due to excess bad cholesterol. Now we have a newer groundbreaking drug called inclisiran. This novel drug uses RNA technology to remove bad cholesterol from the body, from the blood. So it is given just a twice a year injection in a patient with high cholesterol, despite taking a good dose of oral medications. So it is one of the potentially game changer drug in preventing thousands of people from dying prematurely, actually. But one must always remember the hard fact that there is no scientifically proven drug that can actually remove the already formed clots or blocks in the blood vessels. So another important novel drug is SGLT2 inhibitors, which have shown dramatic reduction in hospital admissions and improve the quality of life and survival in patients who have heart failure. We have patients who have reduced pumping capacity of the heart. We have seen many patients whose LV function, whose heart function is very low.
Right.
So we have very few drugs which have been approved for improving the pumping capacity. Mm-hmm. So we have a newer drug called omecamtiv, which is yet to be launched, but it has the ability to bind directly to the pumping apparatus of the heart and improve the heart function. So this has shown a lot of clinical benefits, and we are waiting for the official launch of these molecules. So yes, certainly there are newer advances now which can help us in postponing the need for surgery.
All right. Dr. Rajshekar, we will take a very quick break at this point, but there's a lot more to talk about, including newer oral medicines introduced this year for patients with heart failure. We'll have much more on that when we come back in just a moment. Welcome back to Health and Wellness Myths and Facts. As always, we're joined by medical experts to talk us through the care needed for people living with long-term metabolic disorders at a time when the Omicron variant threatens to overwhelm hospital systems all over again. Dr. Karthik, if I can come to you, what are the new advancements in terms of insulin injections? We've heard about new insulin pumps, which appear to be more effective than normal insulin injections. Can you tell us a little more about them?
Yes, insulins have shown a great deal of improvement in the last few years. Today we have effective insulins which last longer than 24 hours, and we also have very quick insulins act in under 1 minute. Apart from that, the insulin delivery devices have shown a great deal of improvement, and one of them is the insulin pump. Now imagine this: if you are taking water in a glass or in a bottle, it is ultimately the same water. In the same way, insulin delivery devices just make the process of delivering insulin to a patient more efficient, more reliable, and more effective. But ultimately what matters is the kind of insulin that we give. And the kind of insulin that we give and the delivery device that we use varies from patient to patient. And choosing the right insulin and right delivery device from the right patient will result in optimal outcomes.
Right. Let me take that same question to Dr. Rajshekar as well, and also follow up with this one. Dr. Rajshekar, diabetes and cardiovascular diseases coexist most of the time. Are there diabetes medications that have a positive effect on heart failure outcomes as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We have newer drugs like SGLT2 inhibitors and certain injections which has actually shown to improve the cardiac function and reduce chances of heart failure admissions. There are drugs which are actually initially used for reducing sugar, and now even if there is no sugar, no diabetes, we are able to use for even for just heart patients without diabetes. So absolutely we have a tremendous benefit for certain newer classes of anti-diabetics, especially a drug called SGLT2 inhibitors.
Dr. Rajshekhar, the number of wearable devices has also risen in the past few years. Generally, cardiology-related wearables include fitness trackers, digital blood pressure cuffs, weight scales, to even arrhythmia monitoring systems. Are these trustworthy? Should they be used on a regular basis by patients, or can nothing beat the kind of clinical examination that is there now?
So we have many new wearable devices that have been widely adopted by both doctors and consumers. So coming to the fitness trackers, these devices can usually measure steps and heart rate and energy expenditures like that. So these devices can, regarding the reliability of these devices, the majority of the leading brands can accurately count the steps and as well as heart rate. But coming to the reliability regarding energy expenditure, that is calories burnt, unfortunately, majority of the bands are very poor in their accuracy. So another problem with these devices are that it can sometimes make the patient more anxious because of false alarms. Sometimes patient will come to us say that their heart rate is very low. So majority of the time it is due to technical error rather than the actual abnormality. But these devices are getting constantly upgraded and redesigned to newer models. So hence they will become more and more trustworthy in the future. Right. Coming to the digital BP cuffs, so many doctors nowadays we recommend to measure BP at home. So it is at the same time very important to know that the digital BP cuff has around 5 to 50% can be inaccurate. That's why we stress the patient to bring their home BP monitors to doctor's office to test it against known accurate instrument. So also it is very important to record all the parameters like heart rate, body weight and blood pressure, everything in a logbook with a date and time, so that it will give very valuable information to the doctor who is treating it and who can adjust the drugs accordingly.
Right. So Dr. Rajshekhar and Dr. Karthik, actually Dr. Karthik, let me put this question to you. The relationship between type 2 diabetes and obesity is very clear. Obesity is probably the #1 factor in the development of insulin resistance. Bariatric surgery seems to be catching up as an effective antidote to obesity. Does it work for people who have a pre-existing diabetic condition?
Yes, absolutely. Bariatric surgery is one of the ways in which we can put diabetes in remission. By that we mean reversal of diabetes. So we have to select the patients with diabetes and obesity, and if we offer bariatric surgery to those patients, they will have tremendous metabolic improvement, so much so that bariatric surgery is otherwise also known as metabolic surgery. Now how this works is quite simple. Metabolic surgery enforces caloric restriction in patients who undergo metabolic surgery, and also it prevents the absorption of nutrients to some extent. So enforced caloric restriction and preventing nutrient absorption ultimately results in weight loss, and since obesity is the common soil which leads to multiple metabolic problems downstream, if we can tackle obesity, we can also tackle the downstream metabolic problems. Now the interesting thing is that the improvement in diabetes happens even before the weight is lost, which means that certain hormonal changes happen after bariatric surgery, which also helps the patient in putting their diabetes under control. Now all this does not mean that the patient can eat whatever they want and live however they want after bariatric surgery. They may have to be on regular follow-up, but it is at present one of the most important ways in which we can reverse diabetes in patients with obesity.
Right. Dr. Rajshekhar, the availability of portable and home-based ECG is an important innovation. How accurate are those readings, and are they user-friendly? Can anyone use them?
Yeah. So, like other devices, we have ECG devices also now in the market. It is available as watches, or there are some devices which can be linked to phone and record the ECG. So, what it will actually do, it will continuously record the pulse from the hand, and whenever the pulse rate is very high or very low, it will immediately alert the patient so that they can open the ECG app in the watch and they will start recording the ECG. So this can be shown to the treating doctors for adjusting drugs. So one important thing is to remember is that it can never replace the conventional ECG machine that is used in the hospital. So what is ECG? ECG is nothing but just recording of electrical activities of the heart. So in a conventional ECG machine, we will record ECG keeping electrodes at various places of the heart like chest, legs and hand. So we will record from 12 different angles. Whereas the watches, ECG watches will record ECG from 1 or 2 different point of angle. So it can never replace conventional machines. But when we can use this, so these can be especially useful in patients who have high heart rate, who have palpitation or racing of the heart, or who had previous diseases like abnormal heart rhythms, or especially at a condition called atrial fibrillation. So in these places, we can use this ECG watches. And whether all the consumers and general population, can they use this ECG watch? The answer is no. Those who don't have medical background or who might get overtly anxious about the results must not use it unless their doctor asks to use the watch.
Right. Dr. Karthik, there have also been some reports about the development of an artificial pancreas. Just what exactly is this? How promising is it? Is it going to be available in India, and who should be using it?
Yes, artificial pancreas is an exciting development in the field of diabetes. Now, in order to understand artificial pancreas, we need to know how a normal pancreas works. The normal pancreas in our body senses the blood glucose levels, and depending on the blood glucose levels, it releases insulin. This is why we are able to eat 2 idlis or 5 dosas and have the same blood sugar levels, because the pancreas does its job. In patients with diabetes, especially type 1 diabetes, where there is almost no insulin protection, what happens is that when they eat, the blood sugar rises. The patient has to check the blood sugar and deliver how much ever insulin is required accordingly. Now, if we have a device which both senses the blood glucose and delivers insulin accordingly, that is what we call as artificial pancreas. It is not implanted inside the body. It is a small device about half the size of a smartphone, and it is kept outside the body. At present, we don't have a fully commercial, complete loop artificial pancreas available in the country, but tremendous strides have been made towards development of an artificial pancreas, and we are almost there with respect to closing the loop. A loop as in sensing as well as delivering insulin. So in the next few years, maybe within 5 years or so, we will definitely have artificial pancreas available in India, and that will be a great boon to patients with especially type 1 diabetes who need to be dependent on insulin just to stay alive.
Right. All right. One last question then to Dr. Rajasekhar. What are the recent advancements by which it is possible to detect the risk of heart attacks or strokes?
So we have many recent advances we always have advances in the field of cardiology. So we have newer investigations like high sensitive CRP, which can actually help to identify and treat patients who are at risk of heart disease. And we now have advanced CT coronary angiograms, which is relatively painless and a simple test to identify blocks in the suspected patient. Sometimes CT scan is also useful in identifying calcium deposits in the heart. If there are calcium deposits, our doctors can treat it with medications which help in reducing the chances of heart attacks. So we have newer advances in conventional angiogram also. So we know that angiogram is a gold standard test to identify the blocks and to say whether the blocks are significant or not, and to find out the percentage of the blocks. So there are newer technologies in it like FFR, which have a specialized sensors to find out if that block is significant or not. And we have specialized micro cameras and micro ultrasound probes and wires, which can go through a narrow blood vessel and find out the anatomy of the block and find out and tell us more accurate about the block, whether to treat it or not, thereby helping us in preventing heart attacks. So although we have a lot of new advances in identifying patient at risk of heart attacks, we must not forget the basics. That is, high sugar, high cholesterol, high BP, and smoking are the leading cause of heart disease and stroke. And checking and treating blood sugar, cholesterol, and blood pressure are the easiest way to have a healthy life.
Right. And of course, we mustn't forget diet at the end of the day, Dr. Rajshekhar. You know, sort of, if you'd sum it all up for us, the tips that you would absolutely always give to your patients about, the difference they can make with a rigorous diet and exercise. Dr. Rajshekhar?
Yeah, exactly. So diet and lifestyles are always the first part of the treatment in any diseases, especially for heart patients and diabetes. So dietary modification and physical activity should be part of any therapy. And in addition to that, if required, we have to take tablets.
Right. All right. We leave it at that. Dr. Rajshekhar, Dr. Karthik, thanks very much for joining us on this edition of Health and Wellness.